Deconverted Man here. How to be a skeptic, or I guess how to not be a skeptic. A little bit of both. So I've had this label of skeptic for a while, since the age of 32, and I'm whatever age I am now, so that's whatever the math is. But anyways, it's been a while. Doesn't matter how long it's been. What does it mean to be a skeptic? How do you be skeptical? And I think that yeah, it's a question of philosophy, but it's also a question of logic to some extent. You have to have a system. The system I utilize primarily is formal and informal logic to set boundaries on uh, various things. And I'm not perfect with it. Um, Obviously, I'm not always going to do it to the best of my ability, but that's my goal is to do the best I can. And typically, I analyze other arguments for fallacies rather than create my own argument, but I've done that occasionally. I'd like to create my own arguments more often. Um, it just depends on what it is the topic is and whether I'm passionate about it or care about it or know anything about it in the first place. But the one thing that I do know that I kind of know a little bit about is logic itself and to some extent skepticism because one thing I've noticed is if you stop believing in everything, so to speak, you actually begin to gain beliefs, and the rate of beliefs that you gain accelerates upward uh, to the extreme. So if you start to just believe in reality, for example, you're going to have to gain some other new belief to replace what reality is. So you're gonna have to believe that we're brains and vats or in the matrix or whatever. And it's not just about, well, we could be in this or we could be, yeah, because whatever, but there's no reason to think that we are. So that's where that investigation ends. It's just, well, it's a possibility hypothetically, but until you had evidence that it was an actuality, there's no reason to think that it's true. But if you're saying that you can't trust reality, then you're free to go anywhere after that. And that makes you start acquiring beliefs. So a skeptic must kind of do what they can to be careful about acquiring beliefs and also must be careful of not letting go of beliefs that you currently hold and being willing to and able to challenge whatever it is you hold to be true, whatever it is that's near and dear to you, whatever it is that you think is real in the world. Uh, I've seen people go off the rails left and right for various different reasons. Sometimes over the definition of a word, for example. Not to name names or anything, but there's debates on the word atheist or the word Christian or whatever the word is, and within a logical context, if you were trying to make an argument for this is the way that the word must be used or is, you couldn't really form, I don't think, a valid and sound argument because the best you could do would be to compile all dictionaries together and say this is the consensuary view of dictionaries, but that's an appeal to the majority, it's an appeal to popularity. So your argument would always have some flaw in it, logically speaking. So you can't really say what a word must be. Just at best, you could say what its most popular version is. And if so, debating words is almost uh, something you can't do. But maybe you're clever enough to figure out how to do it. I don't know. I've not seen that debate yet, but maybe somebody will do it. Um, but why are you debating the word in the first place? See, that's what you have to answer because you're really the only one that might know the answer. And although you might not know the answer, at least consciously, you have to dig down and figure out what's at the root of the issue. What is causing you to fight this fight? And that's usually something that relates to a belief that you hold. So the stronger that belief is, the harder it is to challenge it internally speaking. But you must. That's what you must be doing as a skeptic, and you must also be aware of the logical fallacies that are out there, including the what I call mind reading or special knowledge, which might go under other names depending on where you look, and you could complain about that it's not listed in, on some list of fallacies, but it holds all the same rules as other fallacies. Basically, it's the idea that you can know what somebody else is thinking, or that you can intuit what somebody else's motives are. There's no way to do that I know of that's scientific in nature or logical in nature. Now, if you found some way to do it, then fine. I was watching this body language channel for a while because I thought it was kind of interesting, but I was getting frustrated because not once did they ever explain the system of how it works. How do you identify that this means that? Like, how do you know that? Like, where's the proof of any of this being true? And when you can see two different body language interpreters go at the same thing and come out with different conclusions, then something I have to be a little bit skeptical of. I need this to be done under controlled conditions, and where's your proof that this works at any level? And if you don't have that, then maybe it doesn't. You have to be aware that a word's definition doesn't mean that's what the word is, because otherwise we could define things into and out of existence. So some have tried to make God be defined into existence, for example. And like God is the sum total of everything. And if everything exists, then God exists. So everything exists, so therefore God exists. Like, okay, but you can't just do that. Like, well, the definition of God is it's real. So you can't say it's not. It's like, well, that's what the definition says. That doesn't make it what it is. And it gets complicated because people are complicated. Somebody could be calling themselves a Republican but voting Democrat year after year, and you'd be like, well, it doesn't make sense what you're doing. Well, it doesn't. Yeah, well, I'm still, what do they do might be more important than what they say. If they make claims about their label, but then everybody that holds that label, or at least a significant portion of people that hold that label, are doing vile things, then I think it's safe to say that the label is in fact vile, whether or not they say otherwise. So Islam is not a religion of peace, no matter what they might want to say that it is. Too many people want Sharia law to be a thing, and that's part of Islam. So if you get rid of that, then maybe Islam could be better. I don't know, but maybe there'd have to be other changes as well, big changes, significant changes to it. And without that, it's fair to say that the the overwhelming fact is that the system is inherently corrupt or incoherent or vile and evil. And that, yeah, sure, maybe some people are behaving for now, but they really want laws in place so that they can behave in a whole different way that would not make you too happy if they had that law in place. Basically, they want to legalize the ability to kill you because you're not one of their members. So that's not a good thing. Like, yeah, sure, we'll live in peace with you until we can get this into law, and we'll wait, we'll be patient. So the actions might be more important than the words depending on the subject, depending on what it is you're looking at. If you go to a used car salesman, you're going to go in as a skeptic. You're hopefully going to go in with some knowledge about the car and the place, and you've looked at some stuff online to get a feel of the ratings of this place and so on. You've done your homework, hopefully. But not all the time. We just don't have the time and energy to do that. So we go in and we go, okay, what's your argument? And if they have a valid and sound argument, then it's worthwhile to maybe get the car or investigate a little bit further and then get the car. But if they don't, then you go looking for another car. And so for religious claims of God, I've continually been looking for the good argument that I haven't found yet. And until I find that, and I don't think I will, but who knows? I don't know. I'm going to be skeptical of that God is anything other than an invention of humans. But there's other things on that list of things I'm skeptical of. It's like, well, how do we best do things politically? Oh my goodness, I've tried to to apply logic to that question, and I don't have an answer. The best I can come up with is that I don't. Well, I guess it's mostly questions that I have, like, well, why don't we just take whatever works and just use that? It's like, well, but it works over there. It might not work for us. It's like, yeah, that's true, but we don't know unless we try it. So did we try it at all? And you know, maybe we should do it on a small scale as an experiment. And, I don't know. It's a huge thing. Plus, at the end of the day, you can get frustrated because you don't really have that much influence in politics anyway. So what does it really matter? You know. Um, but there's so many things out there that really can get you fired up emotionally, and when you see that in yourself, as I have many times, it's good to take a step back and go, okay, well, is that a thing that I believe in, and should I? How do I challenge that belief? So I believe, that the word feminist has become is associated with this vile, empty Marxist system, and I've not, I've not, I've not yet found a coherent argument for feminism. Other people have tried to appeal to the definition and say, "Well, that's what it says it is." Yeah, but there's already a word for the definition, so why have two different words for the same definition? That something's funny there. If you called it menace and said, "Oh no, it's nothing about sex," I mean, come on, it's in the word feminine. It's in there already. It's already implicitly biased towards one sex over the other. So it's not really about equality, and it can't be. It's part of the word, but it's like, well, but this is how it's been defined. Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean that's what it is. In the same way, for atheist or a Christian, there's debates about these words because there's the way that people use them versus the way that people want to use. So many want atheists to equal there is no God rather than I don't believe in God because it's like, okay, well, if you say there's no God, then you have to do something about that. Yeah, you have to have an argument. It's not that you have to have proof. See, that's the wrong idea. You just can't prove that sort of universal negative. And if people understood logic, then even that arguing for this idea that the word atheist has to mean a certain thing, they wouldn't do that because they would understand that even if they succeeded, they would have gained nothing. All they gain is debate. It's like, well, that's already what atheists do. So you didn't change anything. So why were they arguing for that? Well, maybe because I don't know, because we can't really know their motive. We can't know what's in their mind. We don't know what's in their heart, so to speak. Of course, the heart's a metaphor, blood that's pumping, it's an organ that. But we don't know what's in their brain. We don't know that. We can't know that without, with any certainty. And even if they tell us, um, they could be dishonest, and who knows? Uh, but we have to. There's some level. That's another sort of area where skepticism kind of has to give a little bit, in that when we interact with people, we have to be aware that the social contract is a thing, and that you grant innocence until guilt is proven. So it's like, you're saying all these things, and I'm assuming that you're speaking, if not what's true, what you're not trying to be dishonest to me. You're saying what you think is true. It might not be true, but you might not know that it's not true. So you're not lying or being deceitful per se. And I'm going to grant you the benefit of doubt until I find out that you did know better, or you do know better. And, then I might trust you less. But every interaction with you should be, in a sense, an opportunity for you to give an argument that I'll analyze independently. Because if I really want to be consistent with logic, I shouldn't be like, well, this person's dishonest, therefore I have to distrust them. Well, yeah, but then I'm at home, and it's an ad hominem, because it could still give me a valid and sound argument despite the fact that they're not trustworthy, right? Sure, but you probably would heighten the bar a little bit on your burden of proof requirements for their claim, because of your interaction with them in the past or something like that. So it's not an easy thing to navigate this thing of skeptic, and it's something I struggle with, and something I think about. And so I don't know how many of you call yourself skeptic, or want to call yourself skeptic, or have other ideas of how to view it, or how to view doing it correctly, or whatever. And maybe it's a situational thing. It's like, well, in this situation you should be skeptical, but in this other one you shouldn't be skeptical at all. You should believe all the things. Well, that seems too far. And it's like, well, should you doubt everything? Well, no, that seems too far as well. You should, somewhere in between there is where to be. But how do we know where that is? It's a tough question to answer. So, did I answer the question of how to be a skeptic, or did I just leave you with more questions than answers? Yes. And maybe that's a good thing. So, that's all I've got for now. Until next time, I guess stay skeptical, whatever that means.